Now it finally happened. Nintendo released a new Mario game. Well, sort of. I mean, Bowser's Fury is new, but Super Mario 3D World isn't. But regardless of that, I have been enjoying it a lot, and I was actually shocked with the quality of Bowser's Fury. I thought it was just gonna be some little demo add-on, nothing special, you know? But in the end, it's so much more than that. So in this video, I want to take a look at some of the things in Bowser's Fury that absolutely blew my mind. So let's dive right in. Number 5. Now to start off this video, we will look at something that most people kind of forgot about and took for granted. The power-ups. Because in this game you don't capture enemies or something, but you actually use the classic power-ups seen in Super Mario 3D World. Some of them are purely used to climb obstacles and complete platforming challenges, while others are there to enhance your combat skills. Now, while the capture mechanic was certainly more fun and useful than these power-ups, these are still pretty great. Especially in an open world like the one seen in Bowser's Fury, you will notice how useful these powers can be. And there's one thing Nintendo also added to all of this that makes it even better in my opinion. You can swap between all of them whenever you want. This gives you so much freedom. All of a sudden you can use the boomerang flower to destroy a group of enemies, and a few seconds later you switch to the super bell to climb a small hill with a cat shine on top. That's what's so great about the power-ups in Bowser's Fury and Super Mario 3D World as well. You can switch between them all the time. This gives you a lot more options and makes exploring the world a lot easier and more fun. There's no limiting factor really, but this isn't the only thing I like about it. Number 4. Now, aside from the power-ups having a fun role in the game, there are also other elements that I like a lot. One other great mechanic seen in Bowser's Fury is Plessy. This is a friendly character that debuted in Super Mario 3D World. In the game, it allows playable characters to ride it through certain levels, similar to Dory in Super Mario 64 and New Super Mario Bros. And now it reappears in Bowser's Fury, where it has the ability to dive, which allows it to avoid low-hanging obstacles, or perform a high jump if it jumps right after diving. And surprisingly enough, after collecting the 3 Gigabells, Plessy becomes Gigacat Plessy, and permanently stays a cat after the main story is completed, which is certainly a cool little Easter egg, but nothing too big. It won't change the gameplay in a major way, to be honest. However, Plessy does have a huge impact, because by using this little creature you can go from one side of the map to the other incredibly fast. That alone is already worth its weight in gold. The map in Bowser's Fury is quite big after all, so a mount like Plessy is very useful. But that's not all, because this gigantic creature can also be used to complete all kinds of challenges that will reward you with a cat shine. And to be honest, a lot of these water challenges with Plessy are quite fun. They are fast, dynamic, and sometimes even a bit hard. Although I will say both Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury are significantly easier than a game like Super Mario Odyssey. But still, it offers a fun challenge and an experience that's different from anything else seen in the game. It's a fast-paced water section that's similar to what we see in Super Mario 3D World, but this time you have a lot more freedom. So to be honest, I freaking love Plessy in this game. Number 3. Now, one thing that plays a huge role in the game is Bowser himself. The game revolves around freeing every island from Fury Bowser by recovering cat shines after all. But that's not all, because that would be too easy. So at random time intervals, Fury Bowser emerges nearby from the Fury Sun, and this has a huge effect on the world itself. Now when this happens, the weather becomes stormy, and he terrorizes the surroundings of the islands through large beams of fire and meteors falling from the sky, with the nearby cats on all the islands becoming black and starting to attack Mario. But luckily enough, at some point he will fall back into slumber, either after a brief period of time, or if a cat shine is collected. And of course, on the 3 corners of Lake Lapcat, there are huge Gigabells. which you can collect if you have enough shines, and this will transform you into Giga Cat Mario. And at that point you will be able to fight Fury Bowser one-on-one. And if you win, you force him back into his slumber, allowing you, the player, to access more islands. But we will get to that fight later on, because for now I want to talk about the terror Fury Bowser brings to the world. I absolutely love the fact that every now and then he wakes up and tries to get you. It really spices up the gameplay, because sometimes he can really catch you off guard and roasts you alive with his Hyper Beam Fire Breath attack. Personally, I would have loved to see something like this in Breath of the Wild instead of the normal Blood Moon event that we saw in the end. Just imagine, every time a blood moon happens, Calamity Ganon breaks free for a bit and tries to kill you. That would be amazing! And it's exactly what we got in Bowser's Fury. And the terror and doom that he brings to the world also has a use. For example, you can use spikes that fall from the sky as platforms, and some blocks can only be destroyed by an attack of Fury Bowser. All of this has a cool effect on the game, and especially the gameplay. And because of that, I love it. Like I said before, I'm impressed by this add-on so far, and there are some things that are even better. Number 2. Now, so far we've talked a lot about things that are quite obvious. Everyone knows about Fury Bowser and Plessy after all. None of that is really new or a shocker to anyone who has played Bowser's Fury or has seen the trailer of the game. But there's one thing that has a huge effect on the game, but nobody's really talking about it, even though this feature keeps the game incredibly interesting and fresh over time. And believe me, that's a good thing. The world of Bowser's Fury is very dynamic. Things around you are constantly changing. One area that gives you a good example of this is Fort Flaptrap, an island located on Lake Lapcat, which you go to quite early on. This is one of the few islands that surrounds the lakeside Gigabell, and it features a castle-like building and red and blue panels, some of which lead to pits of lava. And here you can collect a total of 5 cat shines, with all the challenges being sort of similar, and the first time you go there you need to take out a bunch of bullies. And after defeating those you get a shine. But after that, there's nothing to do. Only when you come back later you get a brand new challenge. So every time things change here. Every time, you are fighting a different enemy or collecting a different thing. And this is just one example of this dynamic world, because even a bunch of enemies change throughout your adventure, and even completely new missions are added, like the cages who you can only open with a key. A lot of things in this game change as time goes on, making old areas more interesting down the road. And this makes the open world a lot more interesting. While it is very subtle, it is a huge improvement. Number 1. Now we reached our number 1, the one thing that is the best in the entire game by far, and for me, that's the Fury Bowser boss fights. Because while the game isn't too difficult, I do like the fights with this new Bowser form because he pulls off some tricks that are surprisingly effective. First, Mario grabs the Gigabell and then the fight starts. And during this battle, Bowser will do a few different attacks. He will either use his Fire Breath, jump up and try to ground pound on Mario, roll around sideways on a shell, cause a fire shockwave to come out upon landing, or dig into the ground and cause spikes to rain out from the sky. All of these attacks are extremely effective, as you can imagine. Especially the shell rolling can be really hard to deal with. Now, you can damage Bowser by claw swiping him or ground pounding when Bowser is on the back of a shell. And you can even throw those spikes at him. Aside from that, you can make the fight easier by collecting shines when he's out. But if you don't do that, it becomes a more interesting challenge for sure. Now, by collecting all shines, Bowser will become even more powerful. And there's also a different version that's a shiny white color. When he turns into that version, his health bar will become blue and always starts at maximum health, despite any previous damage done. So he is harder to beat that way. Now, we have fought a gigantic version of Bowser many times before. However, this one is for sure the most interesting and fun. Because this time, Bowser's not only huge, but also Mario. And you will be fighting him one-on-one. The whole world is your battleground. You can even use the terrain to your advantage, for example to block his hyper beam fire attack. Aside from that, the fight can be truly difficult because Bowser can be fast and can also throw a lot of stuff at you. To be honest, this fight certainly beats a lot of the other giant Bowser fights just because you are actually fighting with him. In a lot of games like New Super Mario Bros. Wii, you're mostly running away from Bowser instead of actually confronting him. And here we finally get to fight him, and because of that, it is my favorite thing in this entire game. And now that you all know what I like the most in Bowser's Fury, we've reached the end of this video. Now be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and click the bell button, and then you won't miss anything. And now I will say my goodbyes, and I hope to see you all in the next video.